that was heartbreaking. So it was the whole fear of death had gone. It was like I was saying bye to my mother and my wife, and I had no fear going into that surgery. It was like, I was actually at peace. It was really weird, but this is the truth.
Hello, Murtaza. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us today. I just wanted to say thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule. We've already had a short discussion before the show. I can already tell that we are going to get so much value out of our conversation today. And like we said before, even if this episode helps even one person, then this show has done its job. So thank you. Tell us about yourself.
My name is Murtaza, from London. The roots are East African. Started off my parents in Uganda. We ended up, blessings of Idi Amin, to Nottingham in 1972 and then moved to London in 1980. My background is I'm a chartered accountant, qualified with Ernst & Young, and then I've had 20 plus years in the corporate world. I'd relocated to Dubai in 2002, where I worked in a number of senior finance roles. In 2014-15, I relocated back to UK, mainly because of the children. We wanted them to kind of have a UK foundation, kind of become streetwise because you're very protected in Dubai, as you know, and just spent time with my parents as well. And so we relocated back there around 2014-15, and then I started working out there in some senior finance roles. 2018 was planning to head back to Dubai, because my wife remained in Dubai during that time when I went with the children. And unfortunately, as I was about to head back, I got diagnosed with stage 3 cancer. So a bit of a severe change in terms of plans. Obviously shock, but you just had to get on with it. Mm-hmm. So obviously, as a result of that, remained in the UK for my treatment. God's blessing, treatment went well, and great family support. I was officially discharged in November 23, alhamdulillah. And after my kind of treatment, I returned and kind of landed a consulting role. And then, however, while the cancer was still hanging over you, I kind of didn't have that desire or passion still to kind of get back into the corporate world. So my wife runs an events business. She's a destination wedding and events planner. So I kind of helped her a little bit and kind of just focused on my health. But after I kind of got discharged in November 23, it's like a weight off my shoulders, kind of gave me a new perspective to life. And I kind of got into real estate, more of a consulting again for me. It's about trust, relationships. So I act as a residential sales director, focusing on Dubai and Ras Al Khaimah. But again, I studied, analysed the market, and I started transacting probably from November 23. So pretty new to the game. But I love people and love meeting people. I love talking. So it works well for me. And then I also help my wife in a events business. So that's where I am today.
That was a very, very thorough background, Murtaza. Let's start from the beginning. So what was childhood like for you?
Childhood was amazing, I mean, obviously we didn't have mobiles, and it was just great. I love sport, so always out and about, doing a lot of sport, football, cricket. Parents put a lot of trust in me. So, I was literally left to my devices. They were never kind of do what, where are you, what you do. It was always built on trust.
Do you have like a fondest memory with your mother when you were younger?
For me, my mother is, I always, it's always her food, Today, obviously, I'm married, and I always used to tell her I want fresh roti, If it was like 1 day old, I would complain. And, I said, Mom, and then she always used to tell me, when you get married, you're going to remember my roti. And to this day, I still do, because if I get roti out of my wife, I'm one lucky guy. So, so Mom's cooking and her blessings, obviously, she worked hard. Her faith was unbelievable. And, when you see her faith and how she's kind of devoted her life towards us, it's just unconditional love.
What about your father?
Father, simple man, doesn't even have a mobile even today.
Even today?
And, bless him, he's 80 plus and always, used to teach me, whenever there was a death, I remember as a child, he would take me along to the funerals, but, he wasn't too much into his socials. Very reserved individual, but kept life simple. Today he's again very simple.
What did he do? What was his occupation?
He used to be a businessman. I mean, he used to have a car dealership in the UK, and then he's effectively retired now.
What kind of things do you feel that he taught you?
Just obviously keeping it simple, work hard, be honest. just the simple values in life. It was always, he was never a man of many words. So we've kind of just, we would not have huge conversations, and it was all on trust. But when he spoke, or if you're in trouble, then it's time to listen. So, I remember as a teenager, back in the day, I was always out every day, coming in. There was a period when I was literally out every night, coming in 3-4 in the morning. And
how old were you at this time?
At that time, I'm talking probably 18. It was. And then I remember one time, it's like the door was locked. I couldn't get in. I had to spend it in the car the night. And the next morning, when he said those few words, it was a wake-up call.
Do you remember what he said?
It was just, he was just saying, what is this? It was just, this is not acceptable. There needs to be a limit.
When my kids grow up, I'm thinking about, will I let them live on campus at university, or will I make sure that they may stay at home with family?
Yeah, so it's a great question. I think today I have a lot of friends who don't, who actually, sometimes relocate to the universities the kids are going, because they just want them to stay at home. I've got friends in Birmingham where the children stay, still go to universities in Birmingham, or even Bristol, or many parts of the UK. During my time, it was just norm. Finish your study, go to uni, and stay. But today, I think parents are more conscious. There's no question. With myself, our son stayed in campuses. Our daughter was a concern for me initially. She started at Leicester University last September. And it was a big debate between my wife and I, whether we should put her in. I have a lot of friends and family in Leicester. She's going to Leicester University doing physiotherapy. And should I put her with her friends and family and kind of take a bed sit, or stay close under there? Or do we put her in student accommodation?
So who was arguing for which side?
I was kind of putting her in the family or friends place, and the wife was, look, put her obviously somewhere safe, but let her experience the university side of things. We did a compromise. We found a very good, secure student accommodation where she's got her independence. She's kind of alone, which makes us more comfortable, rather than sharing kitchens and all that sort. And it's worked out well. It's given her the independence. She's happy where she is. And again, it's about trust in your children. So she's happy. I can see she's happier there. Although, bless her, she was ready to go wherever I told her, and she wasn't. She goes, just tell me where you want me to go. But again, in the end, I knew that she ideally wanted to have that student accommodation. Now she's kind of happy in which she calls her home at the moment. So she's good.
How are you academically in college and university?
I was very bright. Initially, I wasn't. So that's going back to you asked a good question about your parents. Yep. So I was during my O levels. You can see how old I am. I'm calling it O levels, so I know it's GCSE now. But during my O levels, I initially first time round didn't do too well. And again, because I had some great friends, but we were crazy. We were out and about. I remember the day before my maths O level, I was playing snooker somewhere.
Is this the same age you'd take when you do your GCSEs?
Yeah, still at 16.
Okay.
So during my O levels, I was, we definitely. I didn't go no private school. It was normal government school, public school, and I was quite crazy. Didn't study as hard. Took it for granted. So the first time round, I didn't apply myself, and then I got the results. They weren't that great, and that's when one of the times I still remember, with my father, where he sat me down and said his few words that he says, and it was a wake up call for me. And it's the way he said it, kind of buckled down, and then I applied myself, and I did I retook, and I did extremely well in my O levels. A levels, I did well. University, I'd already, I was the top university student, first, second, third year running. Had landed my contract with Ernst & Young by the end of the second year.
What was your revision technique? Or were you studying throughout the year, or when it came to exam time?
No, I was. It was more strategy. Minimum work, maximum result. Again, I kept a full-time job from my O levels right the way through. I finished my university at Marks and Spencer's. So after I finished my O levels, I started working at Marks and Spencer's, Brent Cross, and they enabled me to keep that job even when I started my university. So whenever I was back in London and I wanted to go in on a Saturday or holidays, if they had work requirements, I could go in and out as I pleased, which was, credit to them.
So right now your daughter's at university and there'll be lots of kids that are planning on going. What advice would you give them based on your experience?
Look, today, that's why parents worry, right? Today, it's very, very competitive out there. I mean, I'm not saying what we did was right or wrong or how our parents, they were less engaged, I will say, the old generation. They were busy trying to make a future for their children. And I would say it's really important. I mean, obviously, parents worry and they want the best for their children. And education is key, no matter what. Get that under your belt, even if you want to become an entrepreneur, you want to do other things. I think having a good education behind you, it just creates the security for yourself, for your children and your family. So, work hard, stay focused, and excel to the best of your ability. But do what you like. Don't just do something to please. If you don't want to do a typical Asian parent saying, please become a doctor or a dentist, or how it is, right? Pursue what makes you happy and excel in it.
So you mentioned that between this time, this is when you found out and you were diagnosed with cancer. So just before that, was there anything that led you to believe that there was something wrong? Did you find symptoms?
I had something called colitis.
Okay,
so colitis is an inflammation of your colon. Okay. So I was diagnosed with colitis from 2002 when I relocated to Dubai. But touch wood, it didn't really affect me in day to day. Never. You had to keep it under control. But I never really had any major issues with it. I did have a major relapse in around 2014-ish. And this was probably another reason that I kind of said, time to kind of go back to UK and just make sure I remain with a good kind of consultant to just monitor.
Yeah.
So this was possibly another factor. Now, when I was returning, so I said, back to the UAE, because I said, I want to get back now. The children are kind of in their routine, and the wife and I have been kind of, back and forth between, Dubai and London. The time to return, I had a really good job. I kind of left that to return. And in August 2018, I just thought, because I've had colitis, I've not had a checkup done for a while, so I kind of pushed for a colonoscopy. Okay. And when I got that done, it was like, I still can picture it now, that whole journey I can
you remember the time when you were sitting and the doctor was talking to you?
Yeah, so they're doing the colonoscopy and I'm thinking, he's taken a lot, because I've had them done before. And the consultant was, I just felt something wasn't right, even at that moment, when you just feel
in your gut,
right, what's going on. And then you're and you had my tickets booked to come back to Dubai, literally, because I'm thinking colonoscopy, fly, and I'm back, and then start looking for the right opportunity back here again. And unfortunately, or fortunately, you can say, because had I returned or had I been here, but in a way, everything happens for a reason.
So what was the scene when you found out?
So yeah, I remember them telling me, look, things don't look right. I remember the consultant saying, look, and I'm, as I say, and I said to him straight away, I go, look, you can tell me something doesn't look right. You're saying I need more tests, go for an MRI and CT, and you brought a nurse in. You've just examined me doing a colonoscopy, right? If a mechanic examines an engine, he's going to know it's off. You're going to know something, so tell me straight, what's going on. And you knew something was wrong, but he wouldn't tell you. He goes, look, we still need to do the CT and the MRI in the next few days. And so I was still a little bit hopeful. And at that time, being honest, I didn't share this with anyone.
Oh, okay. No one, your wife, kids, no one?
No, I still didn't share it with no one, except for, I did tell my wife, of course. No, not
did the doctor at that time say potentially it could be?
Yeah. I mean,
okay.
Well, you got to get these things to be sure, but something is wrong, right? But I mean, I told my wife. So when I went for the results, I took a very close friend of mine, and obviously no family, no. And it was...
Why did you make that decision not to bring your family? Or
because if there was that little bit of hope where then nobody needed to know, then they didn't need to know. I can picture this whole journey. I mean, I can picture every day what I went through. But I remember when I went in that room and I had two consultants telling me that, look, you're not going to like what you hear, but, you've got stage 3 rectum cancer.
When they told you that, what thoughts were going through your head?
Just that parents, that, how you're going to tell your parents. Obviously, you think about, your wife and your children. Because obviously it's going to affect people around you as well, your loved ones. So I wasn't bothered about me, being honest.
Wow.
It didn't even cross my mind. And I still remember telling my father, and I still remember a little tear, on my father. I saw it. I've never seen a tear in my father, and that when I told him, I saw a tear. So that was heartbreaking, right? And obviously then there was a plan of action. So I had to keep faith. And I don't think my parents, like my mum, she probably didn't even understand what it really meant. Okay, you're ill or whatever's going on, and you're going to be okay. But her prayers and her faith, I know, is going to help me through as well. So that was one aspect. Was telling obviously my parents. Another decision we made consciously with my wife. Bless her. She was ready to give up. What do I do? Pack up and come back to UK, and what do we do with our daughter? And but I was like thinking, look, if I don't get through this, then she hates the UK. She's never really liked it. So she's made Dubai her home. She loves Dubai. She's got this events business that she's passionate about. So had she taken that gap, it could have affected her business. And if I didn't make it through, then what's she going to do? So we kind of made a decision that you take the daughter, keep her with you, let her not be around during the difficult period. And you can come and go. And I've got great family support and infrastructure in the UK, great friends as well. I mean, I never shied away from telling people I had cancer, because you don't know whose prayer could help you when. So for me, it's about being open. If I got it, I got it. I've got nothing to be ashamed of. And some people be very reserved. So this is another thing. It's important. Everybody handles it differently, right? So as I said, the diagnosis was tough to tell my parents, but I got on with the treatment. And the interesting thing was, before the treatment started, again, faith played a big part.
So I wanted to ask is that when you got this diagnosis, how did you tell your kids?
I told my parents and obviously my wife and the children. They became aware. Obviously, my wife probably told my children. My daughter and my son were in the UK at the time, because obviously that's where we'd returned. And my wife, I think, was at Norway at the time. So telling them was hard, obviously, and it would have been a shock for them as well. And, I probably haven't engaged with them as much as, it was just like, look, I've got to get on with it. And then being honest, I didn't really get into too much conversation about it with them at all after that. Kind of left that with my wife to kind of manage them and deal with them, which she's great at. And I think she did a great job.
Why did you make that decision?
I just thought I had to focus on myself and she'll kind of give them that, give them the positive outlook and, tell them everything will be okay. And I think, and hence we decided, son was already there doing his A-levels, and my daughter, we decided to send her back to Dubai. So when my treatment started, being very honest with you, the first thing was the radiotherapy.
What is that? What
basically, they are trying to reduce the tumor by giving you the kind of radio. So it's kind of targeting the tumor. And it was an intense radio over 5 days. I was thinking I was going to be okay, right? And
how long are these sessions for?
So you kind of go in and be intense for maybe 30 minutes or something, but daily.
But you can feel
for 5 days. You don't feel anything when they're doing the radio. It's like a form of radiation just attacking the tumor to reduce it. Now, but it hit me so badly. I'm not joking. It was like I was in so much pain because it was rectum. So it was unbearable pain. I'm talking traumatic. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. It was torture for me in terms of the pain. I ended up. So that was for 5 days, and this thing kind of probably got hit. And between the radio and my surgery was probably a couple of weeks in terms of my treatment plan. So waiting for that surgery, being honest, after the radio was unbearable. So all I wanted was to just get on with my surgery. And it was so traumatic. But I remember getting into the emergency. We went emergency. It was unbearable. It's tough. Obviously, my wife was with me at the time, my mother. Them seeing me like that was probably a tough thing as well. But when I went for my surgery, the God's truth was, when the surgery day came, I remember to this day, is in October 2018, I had my mother and my wife next to me. And it's really strange, but it was like, whatever happens. It's in Allah's hands. And I was grateful for the life I've had. And the important thing for me was nobody's going to knock on anybody's door saying I owe them a dirham. And and it was, I've had a good life. I had nothing to complain about. And in terms of, so it was, the whole fear of death had gone. It was like I was saying bye to my mother and my wife, and I had no fear going into that surgery. It was like, I was actually at peace. It was really weird, but this is the truth. How I felt just before I entered that surgery. I had suffered so much before, between the radio and the surgery, but at the surgery time, it was like, in a way I was saying bye, but in a happy way. And I said, God will take care of the family, and whatever's meant to be is meant to be, right? And I was still grateful for my life, but I did not fear death at all. This is the God's truth. And after the surgery, the funny thing was, I mean, the ICU, which I do remember, you see the crazy things. I remember the night of the surgery, I'm in the ICU, and my bed, the inflatable bed, actually collapsed or something. So I was like literally getting, after this massive surgery, I'm in a bed where the whole bed is kind of collapsing, and it was crazy, right? Crazy things happened. And then, I'd moved out of the ICU and got into the ward, and then I was hit with these hiccups, and these hiccups did just not stop. And imagine the pain. And they
hiccups as isn't just normal hiccups.
Yeah, but it was like they went on for like 10, 11 days.
Oh, wow.
It was because you've had this surgery, so it's so much pain. So you went through all these different things, right? And then and after that, the surgeon was saying, look, everything seems to have gone well. I was in hospital for 2-3 weeks. Then I was getting care at home with the help of my parents and friends and family and whoever else. I was back and forth from the hospital, and then the big decision was the chemo, because the surgeon was saying you don't need the chemo, and you've had the surgery's gone well, and you probably don't need the chemo, but you're going to need to see the oncologist. And I was blessed again that I was directed to see a good oncologist at the Marsden. So I was in good healthcare centres. My surgery happened at Chelsea, Westminster, and my oncologist was at Marsden. So God's blessing, I ended up in the right places, and he is the top of his game, Mr. Professor Cunningham. And you don't normally get to see the guy, but again, God's blessing. The day I went, he was the guy who came to see me. Yeah. I had my brother there, so I still remember. This whole journey kind of got me closer to my brother, because me and my brother have a pretty big age gap.
Right.
So,
what's the age gap?
It's around 10, 12 years. So, when you're going university, he's still a little kid. So he's your younger brother, kind of. And then, we really kind of, became very close during this kind of period. There's no question. And, but, we were there, and Cunningham was kind of looking at us and saying, look, it's a difficult situation whether to put you on chemo, because it's difficult because it looks like you're cancer free, and to put you through 4 cycles, it's still going to be tough. And and I just told him straight, I go, look, you're the expert. If I was your son, would you put me on chemo? And I asked him straight, and he goes, you just never know, so I take the chance. He goes, I'll put you on chemo. So he would put him on. So then I made the decision, let's go for it. Right? We've got to get on with it, like everything else. So it's 4 cycles of double chemo. It was horrible, don't get me wrong, because when you have chemo, you can't even touch. You had electric shocks to the hand. So I couldn't even touch anything metal or cold.
Even after the treatment?
No, during the chemo. So it was the radio, then the surgery, and then the chemo. And the chemo was 4 cycles, 2 weeks on, 1 week off, and then it starts again. So I just got on with it, because you have to get on with it, right? I named each cycle Rocky 1, 2, 3, and 4. Kind of obviously the faith aspect has played a big part as well. But I get on, and yes, I did suffer during chemo as well. The vomit, the electric shocky feeling, and it was not easy. But you got through 4 cycles, and then you're hoping everything is good, and then you just had your regular checkups.
So in the middle of your chemo, just so I can get a better picture of what it's like. So a day in the middle of the chemo, what would a day be like for you?
You see, you're basically, the chemo is tablets, so you're just eating tablets, right?
Okay.
And then you have to go to the hospital for an infusion. but that would happen in one hit. So that's when you kind of, when the cycle starts, you go and you're sitting there, you know, and it is not a great feeling. But
Do you sit by yourself?
well, I would always, every cycle we planned, once was so at that time, my daughter did come for me during one. So we had 4 cycles. One was with my wife, one was with my daughter. We kind of planned it, you know, and then, you know, at the end of, there's a 1 week off. So every week off between the two, I would plan something. But yeah, so, you know, I would have somebody close to me all the time, you know, for family support. Friends were always there. And that was a big blessing. You know, it's the amount of people that visited me in hospital. I just can't, you know, it was unbelievable. There was a lot of people, and blessed, you know, it was just genuinely to come and give me good wishes. Some people couldn't make it, but you know, everybody also has a way of dealing with it different. Just because they haven't called or they've not come and seen you, it doesn't mean they're not praying for you. So don't judge, right? It was another thing I learned, because sometimes people, you know, I'm a very emotional type of guy, but just because somebody hasn't called you or come and visited you doesn't mean they don't care, right? And who are you to judge? Everybody has their own things to worry about as well. So it was good people who managed to come and give me that kind of moral support and just come and say hello. But even equally, the amount of calls and amount of people who I know are well wishers for me, you know, it was all over the world. It was a global kind of spirit kind of getting me through this.
Yeah. So there were like lots of little silver linings to this incident. Did it make you change your perspective on life? Yeah,
100%. I mean, look, you know, you face death, right? I wasn't fearing death. And life, you know, is going to come to an end at some point. The question was, do you go back into the corporate world? In November 23, when the kind of discharge happened, you know, or you know things are heading in the right direction, I will say it's kind of given me a new lease of life. Hence, I want to stay young at heart. I may not be as young, but I've got to stay your age, look like you, and keep going, right? So, and hence, I kind of had this new lease where I'm now doing real estate as a consultant. I work for Luxury Concierge Real Estate, where, again, I act as a residential sales director. But it's not just to sell. I've got to differentiate. There's so many brokers out there. For me, it's about relationships, the trust, the integrity. So it's more of a consulting approach with my financial background, you know, giving them the whole kind of market dynamics, fully understanding them if they're interested, not trying to sell. And alhamdulillah, that strategy is working well. All my clients are personal or referral. So this is a great kind of space I found myself in with God's blessing. At the same time, my wife always had a passion with her wedding and events industry, because our wedding was horrendous. 48 hours, no family kind of support, a Bollywood movie in the making. And today she's a wedding planner because of that, because she never got her dream wedding. So I kind of help her as well in her business, and it works well. And so we're kind of getting our life back on track with God's blessing.
Why was your wedding so rushed?
So, you know, I met my wife has met me, actually interesting, her father and my father were both from Uganda, and they were friends. But unfortunately, the mothers just probably didn't get on. No further comment. And you know, my parents were quite religious and whatever. So they, you know, and we kind of, they'd come for, you know, we went for family holiday to Norway, going back to some you said fond memories as a child. Yeah. I still remember that family holiday as a child.
So she was there.
So we, you know, you said some of my good memories. That was actually one of my childhood memories, where my parents and I had gone for a family holiday. We stayed with them. She probably set eyes on me when she was 6 and I was whatever. And
what's the age difference?
It's around 6 years.
Okay.
And then they were holidaying in the UK when she was probably around 18, 19. And I kind of just fell heads over heels over her. I was attracted. For me, it was pure attraction at the start. So, you know, and then it kind of became a bit of a tough battle, because initially my parents were not for it, saying, no, it's not the right girl or the right family. And then her mother did not want me at all. They were close. And it was horrendous. She was taken out of her education in Norway. She was sent off to US.
Wow.
I tracked her down in San Antonio. And, you know, it was going on for a few years, this saga, you know, and in the end, you know, it became a chess game for me, playing chess. And then, you know, I won her father over. And then literally in Norway, I managed to pull things together to make sure I got my nikah done. And after my nikah was done, we're married. So now nobody can ask me anything, So it all got rushed because it became a chess game. I made sure this was done. It was a whole strategic kind
That's
of
an
planning.
amazing backstory for the business.
And 48 hours we got married. So she never got a dream wedding. She never kind of had anything. And then, we've been married now 25 plus years with 2 kids, alhamdulillah.
Wow.
And, here we are. And now she's obviously living her passion with her events business.
So what advice would you give someone that's looking to get married? You've been married for 25 years now. You must have some gems up your sleeves.
Don't get married. No. You have to get married, right? It's a blessing. Obviously, it's finding the right partner. You're compatible. And I think, every marriage, there'll be no marriage that's perfect. You're going to have your ups and downs no matter what. I'm blessed. I've got an amazing wife that has stood by me, through good days, bad days. And I must say in 25 years of marriage, she's actually never said anything to me. I want to do anything. She's never said no. I'm actually the more nagging person. I'll be very honest, So you got to find your right companion. Don't get married because of pressure. You got to find, I will say the advice is if there's a doubt in that person, don't get married. You got to look at everything as well, because sometimes it's not just the person, you're marrying the family and everything around. And sometimes these are the challenges that affect a lot of marriages as well. Don't get married because of peer pressure or because you think you're getting old, because it's better to marry Mr. or Mrs. Right and then have a happy
Mr.
life.
or Mrs. Right now. Yeah. What advice would you give for friends? What kind of friends would you be looking for?
You want real friends, people who are real. They're not just there because of who you are, where you're from, what you do. I think, you make your friends at a young age. My friends that I've got my friendship with, my oldest friends, I'm still friends with from Harrow. My school friend, I'm still there within my university, the 6 of us that stayed in the halls, we're still connected. I've been in Dubai since 2002. There's loads of people I know. There's many friends I have. But there's probably a handful of true friends. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Because it is a shallow place. People come and go, right? So it's really important that you make the right friends, people who are just not there, who you can trust, who you can confide in. A friend is your family, One thing the cancer has also taught me, if I can avoid saying no to anyone, I will try within my best of my ability, because a lot of people will make an excuse. It's like my real estate. I want to try and meet a friend, and he might think, he wants to meet me to try and sell a property, right? But at the end of the day, I'm trying to meet you to have a conversation or just tell you what I'm doing, and the way if anybody calls me, I look at this 24 hours in a day. That means I can sleep less, or I can eat less, or I can watch TV less. But there's no real excuse to fit somebody in if somebody's actually taken the time out to say, can we meet? That's me. Maybe the cancer's taught me that, right? So I've had calls from people. I'm happy to speak to anybody, anytime. I hope if anybody, even on this, I genuinely mean it. On the back of this, if somebody needs some help or advice because they've got an issue in relation to cancer and they just want some advice how to get on with it, I would be more than happy to get on a call or to even meet them, because it's just giving, right? Giving is important, right? It's not for any other reason. It's just about giving, I think. Try and help where you can.
Yeah, when you said that, I think something you mentioned earlier was that you don't know who's going to make a dua for you.
100%.
And where that's coming from. And I think maybe that's where that selfless giving constantly from your end.
Yeah, I think it's important. That's why I was not scared to say to somebody, I've had the cancer. And I said, you brought me here. I think our focus is to hopefully help somebody who's out there, because, you do give up. Everybody is different. I may be the guy who may look so positive on the front, but inside I'm completely broken, right? And or the other person might look completely broken from outside, but he's completely fine, right? We can't judge, right? But when you got something like this going on, I think everybody has a different way of handling it. My way was to try and just get on with it. And it didn't just happen. There was a journey. When I first got diagnosed, don't get me wrong, from getting diagnosed until the day of the surgery, there was a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress. What's going to happen? And then suddenly it changed, just before the surgery, my attitude, and where I lost fear. I didn't, I just didn't really care what happened. I just wanted to get on with it. And it changes your outlook, right?
So we have a closing tradition on the podcast. The guest will leave a message for his wife and kids. So if there was something that you could say to your wife and kids, what would it be?
So for my wife, I like to say, look, obviously I love her to bits. I've not been the easiest husband on many fronts. But, she stood behind me day in and day out. She follows her passion and her dream. Her heart is pure. And, I wish her continued success in what she does, in making memories. And, she's done a great job with the kids. For my children, again, I want the best for them. Especially my son as well, because we've had a difficult relationship, because I want the best for him, and he's probably not followed my path in terms of independence. But I'll just say to them both, I think they're both good humans, and I'm proud of them. They've got a pure heart as well, like their mother. They're there
and father.
And and they've both the children have done great things. One thing that I remember my kids from when I went to the UK, it's an interesting thing, and they're very emotional kids, and they don't like to see sadness. So they were thrown into the UK. They were taking the tube to school, and I remember them coming home once, and they said, and my daughter was very emotional, literally crying. She goes, "Dad, I saw somebody at the dustbin looking at things at the dustbin near Eastcote Tube Station, right?" And this, obviously, you don't see much of that here. Right? This is when they first kind of returned, and they were at the tube station, both son and Ammar and Sarah, and Ammar goes to Sarah, kind of, "What have you got on you?" Right? And between them, they had £5, and to give that to that person, to me, was unbelievable, right? I mean, for a child to give up £5, everything they got on them, to a guy at a dustbin, I think is a great kind of, makes you proud to kind of see that. So look, going back to my children, look, I want the best for you guys. You've got to work hard, keep your faith. I'm a religious guy. Faith is very important in terms of remembering who you are. We have a journey in life. So follow your faith. Be good, work hard, because nothing comes easy. So don't take anything for granted, right? So you've got to work. If you're going to succeed, you've got to work hard. There's no easy way, but be honest in what you do. Always keep the highest level of integrity, and wherever you can help anyone, you help. But I want you guys to really work hard, excel in whatever you do, and whatever you do it to the best of your ability. And I wish you both all the success.
That was amazing. Murtaza, thank you so much for coming today and for taking the time out. I know for sure it's been so beneficial for me, and I know for sure that so many other people would benefit. Once again, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Mama, thank you very much.